Super excited to be here today. I'm really just trying to help people out with video. And one of the things that I noticed is I started doing a lot more vertical videos, is that people really wanted to know what I was doing and what my process was and what I use. So I figured I'm going to start some AI Q&A sessions. We'll do video, maybe we'll do something else today, but I really love to help you if you have any just really AI specific questions. But today we'll talk more about just video specifically. I've used Descript to do all my AI video editing, and it's so useful. It was sort of the type of program that I was sort of made to use. Like somebody told me, "Oh, you can't use that. You should really be using this." And so once I got really into it, though, I realized, wow, this is unbelievable. My history with video editing, I've used everything from Final Cut, Premiere. I used to work at a TV station, and I used to do some commercials there. Uh, Everything from directing to like actually editing and doing the special effects. I do have a lot of experience with all the tools. I really enjoyed Apple Motion, Premiere, Final Cut, and After Effects. I do have a graphic design background as well, so there's that. But I really have enjoyed working with Descript because for me, what it does that's super special in terms of AI is that it gets you to what you need very quickly. So I always say it saves about 80% of all the editing that I would normally have to do. It can truly handle that and saves me time to just focus on the performance, on making the project better. And with some of the tools that are embedded, like some of the AI tools for image generation or some of the AI tools for fixing the audio, it has really made it possible for me to do things from home. So I would love to just get started by maybe going through the process. Please go ahead and write any questions that you have, but I'll show you sort of how I do video because it actually starts before I get to the editor. I have a whole process that I've built to make them very efficient. I think that's probably one of my sort of decent skills that I can take something complicated, and I feel like maybe as a developer, I like simplifying things and making processes and making things super efficient. So let's, I guess, sort of get started. I have this little sort of slideshow that I can share. And great to see Anja and Carlos. Awesome. I'm a fan of all the people that say they're fans of mine. Oh, awesome. React, you learn React. So, Carlos, awesome. Good to hear that. Yeah, I really love technology, and I've been teaching at LinkedIn for like 14 years. And it's nice to do some non-programming things every once in a while. I love teaching, so hopefully, maybe we'll do this again. Let me know, like, if you get something out of this, or potentially what else you want to learn. I'm super experienced with things like ChatGPT, pretty much all the AI tools, so I can talk a lot about. You'll actually see kind of one of the things that I use is the ChatGPT. Hello, Angela. I'm so glad you made it. But let's get into kind of the workflow in some of the AI tools that I use that I think are unbelievable. I think if I were to pick one tool that I could have that was the only tool that I would use and that it's really transformed everything that I do, is the ability of these new tools to be able to do research. So the say for example, and for me the best one is actually Gemini's research tool, the deep, what they call it, the deep research. So it's one of my primary tools for doing things. You basically can begin with one of their models, and what's nice about Gemini is that they make everything free. It's unbelievable, and to me, it's the best deep research tool. I mean, it's Google, so deep research is sort of like a combination of search with reasoning. You give it a task, like say for example, here's the sort of thing that I would do. I would say, I'm trying to do a video on how artificial intelligence has transformed developers' lives. So I need you to go find some either research papers or potentially some quotes from people in the industry that have mentioned, some stats basically about this particular topic. So that's the kind of thing that I'll do. I'll say, can you get me some stats on developer performance improvements with AI. Oops, with AI, and I'll just let it work on that. And usually, I one of the things that I do is I have an idea of what I want to cover, but in order for any AI tool to work well, they require context, kind of an understanding of what you want to do. So when I'm doing these videos, one of the first things that I do is I try to research the topic that I'm going to be covering. And I can do one of two things with deep research: either tell it to find me some hard data that I can use, during the video. The other thing that I love is that you can actually ask it. Let me go ahead and send this one because it'll sort of think through what it needs to do. It'll actually make me a plan for how it needs to accomplish that task, and then it'll go execute. If you use ChatGPT, it does things a little bit different. ChatGPT starts by giving you a list of questions. I'm not sure that I like that as much. This one actually just makes a plan, and you can edit the plan if you want to. No big deal, right? But then with ChatGPT, you have to answer the questions. You can skip the questions. You can just hit return. But I feel like I should answer them, and they're good questions. And then you can just hit start research, and it'll just go through, search dozens of websites, and then prepare a report for you, which is always great to have. You always want, whatever your idea is, you want to have a bit of context so that the tools can perform better. So I'll show you how I incorporate that into sort of coming up with the topic about the project. So awesome. Yeah, good to see lots of people here. Carlos, Angela, Nicola, Steve. So awesome. All right, am I sharing my screen? Oh, you know what? Thank you so much. Look at that. I think I'm a little bit, uh, I've gotten a little bit sort of, I don't know, rusty on this live stream stuff. So thank you, Angela. Appreciate that. All right, so here's what I did. I started out with a prompt just saying, "Hey, I want you to research performance statistics for developers," and I let Gemini Advanced take care of it, and it's going through and doing that research for me. So that's usually one of the first things that I do. The other thing that I love is that uh, Gemini actually lets you connect to Google Apps, and one of the Google apps that you can connect with is YouTube. And I love asking for quotes from people in YouTube videos. Or, when I haven't worked on a newspaper, one of the tools that we had is the ability to search a library of all the video that had been broadcast in any sort of channel in cable, right? So you could search through and find clips of something somebody said, right? To incorporate into whatever project you were doing. So Google Gemini with a YouTube connection can do something similar. So another thing that I love doing is just starting a chat and saying, and I think I have it connected yeah, it's already connected to YouTube. So I can say something like, "Can you find some great Dan Bricklin," or it could be Sam Altman quotes about the development of a spreadsheet, right? And then I can send that. And I should have said probably to do this from YouTube. So let me edit that actually. It's gonna give me, it's nicer to have the video just in case I want to include that into my video, but um, it might. So it's Gemini Advanced is really smart. It might give you some videos occasionally, but can you find me some Google videos? Maybe like the latest thing has been to create all the baby versions of images. I can't wait to do one of me and Morton talking to each other, but as babies. I don't know if you've seen that meme. Should be funny. So look, now it's looking through YouTube. So I think gathering the materials that I want for the concept that I have is pretty good. And if I want to, I can actually specifically say, remember the last one of the Google I/Os uh, where Sundar had mentioned AI like a ton of times. There's lots of videos of that. So if I want to find that, that's one of the ways that I use Gemini because it can connect. Also, Gemini is like the only one that, besides deep research, it now has Canvas, and it's the only one that lets you upload video and audio files, and pretty large ones too. So definitely take advantage of those like little tools. But again, to me, start with context. Like if you have an idea, start with the context, and the Google tools I think are the best. ChatGPT does a pretty decent job. I would say that Gemini does a nerdier, more thorough job than yeah, let's see, a developer performance. So here's that research. It's going to take a while for this to go, but let's see how it's doing. It's yeah, it's going through and researching so far 39 websites. And I think that eventually you'll see that it'll give me a Google Doc. So the deep research from Gemini, a little bit nerdy, just and it's also very long, very wordly. So it's just like a Google engineer. Uh, but you just get a good amount of context, which again you can export, you can put it in a Google Doc, and then you can bring it in. If you have, it has another really cool feature which lets you create a sample podcast of two people talking about the topic. So another way that I use this is by if I need to explain a complex topic to someone, say I have a bunch of technical papers, or even if I want to sort of you know learn some complex data from technical papers, I would just feed them to Gemini and have it do deep research. And then once it gets done creating the deep research document, then it's going to let me create a little podcast. I think that Notebook LM does it a little bit better, but Gemini has it built in now, so we'll see. We'll let that cook a little bit, and I'll move on to like the other thing that I do. I don't see any questions, so make sure you're thinking of questions because this is supposed to be a Q&A, but I'm going to keep on going through some of the things that I use. All right, so research for sure. The next thing is obviously you want to start working on your script, and I have sort of a set of ideas of how you should format like the short videos. And I actually have a custom GPT that I built to do these. So it took me a while to write this one. By the way, I have a website now called It's Playtime that I did to just kind of put my AI stuff in there. So definitely check that out. One of the sections in here is a section called GPTs. This is where I have the GPTs that I use on a day-to-day basis for specific tasks. And I added this link to this vertical video helper. So if you want to check out the other things that I use, this is a great little, sort of WordPress website. Oh, good question, Carlos. So, but in here, there's a button to actually use this. So that's what I'm going to do. But you can also read about the features of how I build this custom GPT and make it your own. You're not, I think in these videos, you want to kind of build a GPT that has, that captures like the essence of how you communicate. One of the hard things is making these tools kind of sound like you, right? So you'll see that the version of this custom GPT, and this is custom GPT is just a prompt, uh, in packaged as something that you can share with others and allow them to reuse what you've done. So you can see here that I like to start, and one of my favorite things to tell these tools to do is to stop. Don't try to do anything. Let me add some context, 2 to 3 key points about the video that I'm writing. And then here's where I also ask it to let me paste some sort of text, a PDF, some context about what I'm writing. And that's where I would bring in the research from Google Gemini. Let's see, it's not done yet. Yeah, it might take a little longer. Let's see to finish that up. So we'll come back to that. So after that, after I, and you'll see that so I'll show you a sample conversation that I had recently. So I have a video that I'm working on right now. So you can see, I think it's this one. All right, so this is kind of the classic conversation. You could see this at work. Let's write a 60-second script is one of the buttons that you can hit on this custom GPT, right? And then it goes through and it stops and then it asks me, okay, what are the points? Share some context with me. So you can see that this is the instructions, right? So once I do that, I either feed it data from, Gemini, or I just start talking to it. And I know that in my mind, I have some ideas about the topic that I want to talk about. Yesterday, I gave a presentation to this company, and one of the things that they asked me to come up with like a closing statement, and I said something like, "Wow, that's a great closing statement," and it was about how developers, I remember when I became a programmer, right? The reason I became a programmer is because I wanted to solve a cool problem. Like I had a problem, and I felt like if I can get the computer to do this, this is going to be great. It's going to really help me with what I need to do. That's how I learned programming, and I think a lot of programmers really love that about the tools, right? But over time, as you become a more professional developer, there's like all these things that you have to learn. Syntax, I had like a libraries full of manuals that you would reference. Then Google came along, and then Stack Overflow came along. And what I wanted to convey with this video that I'm working is that, you know, I I had two typing classes in college, but I didn't become a programmer because I love typing, right? That what you're really trying to do is solve a problem. And so this is just really me pouring out any kind of idea that I have about the project that I want to that I want to create, right? The tool, the anything that I have. And it can be sometimes I'll put in some, some quotes or some research from Gemini and add it to the context. You just want to give it as much information as possible, right? And if you, I did a post on how these tools have a sycophant. This is one of those words that I'm not good at. Sycophancy problem, where they just like they're so happy about what you were doing. Perfect. This is a killer premise. All right, calm down, ChatGPT. So then usually the next step with the script that I built is it starts working on what would be your thumbnail title. So basically, your thumbnail usually has some text in it. That's what this is. It starts with that, and then it moves on to a hook, right? So it gave me a bunch of different options. I thought this was pretty good. You're not a typist, you're a thinker. That was pretty good. Sometimes I'm like, been done before, maybe a little lame. But it gave me some good ideas. And the nice thing is, like, if you don't like the ideas, then you can have them do 20 more. But usually, it's pretty good about giving you, something good out of the 20. And that's another key that when you ask these tools, don't try to get them to just give you a script. Tell them, let's work on the title. Let's work on the hook. Let's work on the next, like one at a time. Because as you interact with them, they gather more context and they're going to do better if you give them feedback through the process. You never want to, I mean, you could just tell it to give you a script, but that's not really, it's not going to be your script and it's not going to be as good as it could be. But because they're so good at great brainstorming, this solves the problem of trying to figure things out. So after this, then I say, okay, I like this one. You don't love typing, you love solving. And actually, notice that that's not one of the options, by the way. That wasn't one of the options. So I liked something about what it gave me, and it made me think of how can I sort of crystallize that, and it came up with this. And then look, great pick. Wow, you're unbelievable. Perfect title. Okay, calm down, ChatGPT. Calm down. It's not the end of the world. So then I move on. Like if you look at my script, the next thing is okay, the hook. So this is not the thumbnail, but the first thing I would say, right? You don't become a developer because you love typing, you love solving problems. Great, but I wanted to make it a little more generic, right? So that's the thing. Like remember, the first few seconds of any vertical video are going to be about grabbing the attention, and we call this the scroll stopper, preventing people from scrolling because they are sitting right there with their finger on that phone and they're ready to go. So if you don't give them something that piques their interest, they're going to move on, right? So you want to have good, thumbnail. You want to have a hook that makes them want to get into the topic and maybe wait and listen to the rest of it. So, all right, again, I generalized it a little bit. I think actually I did it a little bit later, right? And then I moved on, and I said, okay, let's keep on going with this. And then it goes through and it gives me some options. Notice that here, it's only giving me 5 options because as we move on, title, hook, I want to see lots of options. As I continue to write, I want to see just like 5 options. If I don't like them, I can have it give me some more, no problem. And so then I grabbed some of the ideas that I liked and then I developed them a little bit further. And then, okay, great. Look, love that. You're building momentum. Whew. Okay, ChatGPT. Then it moves on to supporting evidence, and it does the same thing. Now, occasionally you'll see that it tries to do too much, and I think when it got to this section again, The custom GPTs aren't always perfectly consistent. Sometimes they'll give you a little bit too much info, so you just have to work with the tool. And so it did this, and it was pretty good. And so then I kind of wrote it out a little bit more, and I had a pretty decent script by now. And it actually ended up, did it ended up moving into canvas mode? No, not yet, not quite yet. And then it usually, again, so if you look at that script, it goes and it has a certain structure. It has ideas for how I like to talk about things, short, punchy sentence, right for people who are busy but smart. Things like that are really important. Here's the kind of structure of what I want. And you can see here the outline: hook, main idea, supporting evidence, real world use, conclusion, and CTA, call to action. So I think those are the things that I like putting in my videos. They work for me. You develop your own thing. You could use this as a template, and make it your own. So put in your own kind of, how you talk and how you like the script to develop. And then, I do some tech specs at the end. I want it to target 60 seconds. It's okay if it goes a little bit over. Sometimes it's a little bit less. And then usually after this, I have a pretty decent script, right? Which then I move into, with this custom GPT, I'll move it into my prompter. So I have a teleprompter that I use. I'll move it. I have the teleprompter application is called Prompt Smart. The thing that it does is, let's see, Prompt Smart. The thing that it does is it follows, like, it uses AI to listen to what I say, and then it moves the script along. So I used to, again, work in a news station, so I'll put this in the comments as well. And we would have a person that would just scroll like the stuff, the scripts, and this tool is great because it does that. There's an iPad version of it, and today I would probably use, and I have one for when I travel. Elgato has a great prompter that does the same thing. So somewhere along products, teleprompter, prompter. So I would totally look into this. It's a kind of like, my prompter is a combination of a lot of really expensive stuff. So it's like a screen. The key is the screen has to reverse the display, so that when it shows up through a mirror, you're seeing it correctly. But this is really great, and the software is really good. It auto detects with the audio that uses the AI and stuff like that. It's really good. I love this thing. But I have my old setup, so I'll definitely put that in the chat, and the old setup, and it'll be in the notes in the comments as well. So that's kind of where I go next. I usually actually always, when you have a script, and you perform the script, you're always going to do a little bit of editing. So that tool lets me edit things as well. And so my scripts are an evolution of, process of me coming up with ideas, given the AI's context, and then continuing to work them, trying to make them make sense. I think a lot of times with ChatGPT, the way that it rates, it does rate individual concepts. So you saw the outline, but when you put it all together, sometimes it sounds a little bit weird. The transitions aren't right, and so you're going to need to edit them. They're really helpful tools, but they, I'm sure there's some sort of YouTube channel out there with a ton of AI generated videos where people are just pumping out volume, which is fine, but that's not me. So then I take the tool into, it usually use something called Canvas mode in ChatGPT. That's really a great editing tool. But then I bring them into Descript, and that's where I do most of my work. Let's see if I have any other questions. Yeah, ChatGPT, Grok, and others is that they are designed to use negative patterns, or it's not merely X, or yeah. There's definitely a lot of patterns. I think the tools are getting better. I would highly suggest that you use, if you can, although it's not part of the GPT, the best writer I think right now is the ChatGPT 4.5 model. It's a really good writer, but it's on research preview. It'll probably disappear soon once 5 comes out within a month or so. So it is the best writer. If you're just purely writing, if you're using the custom script, you get whatever you get, which I think is ChatGPT 4.0. But if I'm doing pure writing projects, then 4.5, really nice. Does a lot better. And then you have to write custom instructions to make them sound more like you. All right. So Once I get into Descript, I record the script, and this is what that looks like. This is a Descript here. So this is how it looks after I've recorded it. Descript is fantastic because it has this like editor that it's really just the text. Normally, you don't even see the timeline. You're working with this right here, which shows you what you recorded right after you record, and then it lets you edit things by just grabbing words and then hitting delete, and it'll just do that edit really quick. That's great. And then if you want to, you can pull up a timeline, and the timeline is great because it'll let me do things like take a word and bring it in a little bit closer. Typing. I did it. You can use either way, but I've been doing editing for quite a long time, so I tend to just use the timeline because I'm used to it. But you can totally just go with the sort of document, the right view, I guess, and it does a fantastic job. So some of the things that I love here, and this is the things that I think help me, you know, narrow down, takes care of like 80% of my editing. They have this this set of AI features called Underlord. Tons of great stuff in here, right? They have Edit for Clarity, which is a combination of things that it can do. It's not bad, but I like a little more control. It has Studio Sound, which means I'm in Florida. The summer is here already, and it gets really hot, so I have to run a fan on this room all the time. And I have a little fridge back there for some sodas or some my cream for my coffee and a coffee maker. So my room gets noisy, right? And you should have seen it before. I put stuff all over the place, blankets and all kinds of stuff. It's really echoey. This tool will take care of that. It uses an AI that will just do a nice job of, if my dog barks, if my quail starts singing, whatever it is, it just takes it out and it makes it pretty decent. And it does that automatically. So I don't really need to hit this button normally. It's on by default. But the other thing that it does is remove filler words. I love that. Now, that's not really useful for when I'm doing this project because remove filler words, like somebody asked, will take care of all the ums and ahs automatically. So I think Carlos said how to get rid of all those. You just hit a button here called remove filler words. And if I hit it, it's not going to detect anything because when you're just reading off of a prompter, you're not going to say ums and ahs that much. But basically, you hit that button and it'll find all the ums and ahs and even sometimes it finds like words that you duplicate, and it'll just let you hit another button and get rid of them. But for me, that doesn't really happen. So the other things here are remove retakes. That one I do use. These two actually are the two things that I use that take care of 80% of the editing. And so I do shorten word gaps. See how there's these little dots here? So solving. So here you can see that I'm just like, I don't know if I made. I didn't become a developer because I love. Yeah, so this is a retake basically. But sometimes you'll see that there's extra space that I need to get rid of. And when I'm doing a demo, you'll like if say I was doing a vibe coding session for a course that I'm working on about Bolt.new. When I record one of those vibe coding sessions, it is like 45 minutes worth of recordings. There's a lot of me just waiting for the AIs to do something, right? So I need to, usually it took me forever to go through and get rid of all the waiting, right? With this tool, I can just hit remove shorten word gaps. Now in here, it's not going to do as many because it's a minute video. There's just not that many. But if I hit that, it's going to find all of them in my script, and then I can just say shorten all of these. You can also control how long the gaps are. So you could say, I want to shorten them to like 0.4 seconds or something like that. And then I'll just hit shorten all, and it'll just get rid of all the spaces that I was waiting for. That alone gets rid of, if like say that I'm doing that 40-minute video, right? That alone will get rid of, like it'll go from like 40 minutes to like 11 minutes. So just imagine all that, save like 30 minutes worth of editing that I may have to do. So that is amazing, especially with things like demos that you're recording, right? The other thing that it does that's fantastic is this one is the one that is really important for things like recording when you're reading off of a script. Just remove retakes. We'll just find all the times where I repeated myself. Like here, you can see I did this twice, and I just hit submit. and it'll find all of them, and then I can just say, okay, see, it found this one, and then it said, okay, well, here's another one that's exactly the same. Let's get rid of that first one. Then it found these other places where I was trying to say something several times. Feel like Foghorn Leghorn. Let's say I say that, like sometimes you just can't get something out, so you just or maybe you didn't like the performance, right? So this will just go through, find your best performance, and let you get rid of it. Right. So then I say removing nor text. You can leave the text there. It's actually, if it's out like overlined like this, it'll skip it. So if you don't, and don't worry, everything is still there. So the deletions are non-destructive. Everything is also in the cloud. So I've had, you know, I've had a instance where perhaps I'm in another city and somebody tells me that they found an error with something, and I can just go through and pull up Descript like in any browser anywhere in the world and do any quick edits and then republish, and boom, I'm done. So I'm going to remove this ignore text from script, and now I have a pretty decent script here. Maybe there's some other tweaks that I want to do in my timeline, like maybe I want to bring this in again with the timeline. I can just sort of take all that in and then do some additional edits. So that is fantastic. Add chapters will add little chapters everywhere, so that in a long video for YouTube, you want to create chapters kind of organized and highlight where, you know, what you're doing at different places. Eye contact will fix your, if you don't have a prompter, it'll redraw your eyes so it looks like you're looking at the camera. So if you're reading off of your laptop, that's pretty great. Automatic multicam, if you're doing an interview, it will, if you have multiple, you have to have multiple inputs, but it will automatically, when somebody starts talking, it'll switch over to that person. Really great. Image generation, all kinds of other stuff in here. Also things for writing. So the YouTube description, it does a great job. Social media posts, it can do like all that directly from here, which is really, really nice. Yeah, so this is Descript. So thank you for reminding me, Adrian. I think I posted it earlier in the chat, but I'll put the link again. There's a lot of other tools that you can use, but this is the one that I really love. Let's see, somebody, what is this tool? Yeah, that's what I'm using. So thanks for pointing that out. Don't you think? Yeah. So once I'm done with this part, I need to make it into a vertical video. So I record all my vertical videos as horizontal videos. And then another fantastic feature of this thing is that it has all of these different templates, and you can make your own, right? So if you go here to the scene menu, you'll see that there's a thing called layout here, right? And the layouts can be, they come in little packs. The layouts will be vertical video, you know, side by side interview, slideshow, and if I normally, you will be in this gallery that has a ton of different layout packs for different you know, tasks that you're doing. Here's some vertical videos. You can use any of these, and once you find one that you think looks pretty cool, if you go to this see layouts, you'll see that there's like sub versions of things that you can use. So the layout pack has a ton of stuff inside, right? You can have a side by side, you can have something with text on the side, and you can drop in a video in here, etc., etc. So see, there's every one of those packs has like a ton of stuff in it. You can also make your own. That's what I do. So I have a vertical video template. Um, it's under the Drive folder here. And in Descript, the way that the tool works is you can create a scene. A scene is like a break in the layout of the product, and each scene can be assigned a different template. So you can see I had two scenes that look like, but now I have only one scene because there's only one slash. You can also see here in the sidebar that there's only one scene here at the top. But I can come in here and say, okay, I'm gonna use my vertical layout. So I'm gonna go see layouts, and I have a layout for the main content, right? So I'm just gonna click on this, and it's gonna apply that layout. Something that it does that's a little bit weird, it kind of like hides the video sometimes. So sometimes I have to turn the video back on. I think that's just me. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing with that well enough. But once you turn that on, you're still, you know, your video is still horizontal. But then what you can do, you're actually, if you don't want to use the template, you can hit this button right here, right? And just switch to portrait. right? And then what you do is you grab the horizontal video, and then you hit this position button and say fill scene editor, and that makes it fit on the screen with a goofy face like that. So once you have that video in there, then you can control the sort of centering of the person, like in the video. So I just double click and then drag over. I also have like an overlay for making the bottom part of me a little bit darker. So that template added a bunch of like little layers here. It also added the captions are automatic there. So you could see that it added these little captions, and as I talk, it just automatically updates the spreadsheet. And again, it's hidden. It's got something. One of the layers is always hidden, so I'm gonna have to do that again, because I actually have two recordings here. I did like an extra recording at the end. Normally, that first sort of grab would have done everything. So I'm gonna center this a little bit. Cool. Move my sort of shadow back to where it goes, and then you can see now that is done. All my sort of text on top is done. That's called fancy captions. So you can see they're right here. You can just also, if you want to just bring one in, you can grab one of them from here and bring it in. And then I have a number of other templates. So now I would go through and break this down and continue adding templates here. So you create a new scene by hitting the slash. And so you would just do this, and yeah, then you apply your different templates. So maybe like for this one, I'm going to go over to the scene and pick my starting title. Starting title has, and again, it, for some reason, has like a bunch of text that I want for the first few seconds. And then it moves on to just the part with the fancy captions. And so, you know, every template can have the different designs. So yeah, that's how I pretty much do them. And then after that, you can just publish this and put it wherever you need it to go. But that's sort of, I guess, my entire process. It's also a really long demo. I hope people have other questions. So let's go and do some Q&A now. Hopefully, y'all thought of something else you wanted me to show you. And again, let me know. And once you're part of the um, you know, the LinkedIn group that you clicked on to watch this, you can put some additional comments or connect with me if you have any more questions, of course. Um, yeah, that's kind of my entire process. And honestly, I've done like 25 courses on AI, and this is how I actually edit most of the courses as well. It's just that for vertical videos, you really want to kind of put a focus on the concept that you have, and then you want to write with um, a very strong direction, so that you make the point that you want be the main thing as quickly as possible. So here's actually what the research looks like when it's done. See how it's very long. Like I don't need it to be that long. And then there's also a little button here that says generate audio overview that makes a little podcast with a conversation, two people talking about whatever the research was, which is pretty cool. So definitely check that out. I love Gemini. I mean, I feel like I'm liking Gemini more than ChatGPT. Can't believe I'm saying that. But I think ChatGPT, the custom GPT's features, although I think Gemini does the same thing. They call it Gems. I tried it once though, and it didn't work as well. So I still use a combination of ChatGPT, but more and more I'm going to Gemini. Gemini will also let you do video now with just even a cheaper account, and it does. Maybe I'll do another session on video. It's not perfect yet, although I do want to find out how to do those babies talking, because I think that's pretty cool. Maybe that'll be another session. So yeah, that's what I have. Let me see if there's any questions. I'd love to hear more from you on what you want to know. I do enjoy kind of, we kind of instructors love to talk a lot. So I'd love to follow these up with some other shows later on. So let's see. I answered Carlos about the ums and ahs. I did talk about the annoying things with ChatGPT. They do a lot of M dashes, which I really like M dashes when I write. Um, you know, but you can really tell when somebody just gives you a document and it has a bunch of M dashes, like long lines that are what you would use for semicolons. I think it's a little bit much. So yeah, I think that so for me, if I want ChatGPT to sound more like me, you have to go to customize ChatGPT and then put in a custom instruction. One of the sentences that I learned right now is this line right here makes a huge amount of difference in how good ChatGPT writes. Avoid cringe writing at all costs. It's the first thing that I put in here. But you can see mine, and maybe I'll put this if the chat will let me put this much stuff. I'll add this to the chat so you can have like my sort of avoid writing phrase that I use. And then you want to include data about what you're doing as well. So you definitely want to customize it to make it sound more like you. Otherwise, it is just even though I've customized it, it's still a little too happy for me. I do think that the custom GPTs, they don't necessarily they have their own kind of custom instructions. So that could be something that you add to your prompts. I probably need to add that to my custom GPT on video building. But I use the same process to do almost all the writing that I do. I will have created a custom GPT. Maybe that's something I can follow up with, how to create those. It's really, really easy. You do have to have a paid account, but I have like a little tool for doing anything. Oh, you know what is also sweet about Descript? I forgot to show you this. It has a stock photography here, so I can say I need someone using a let's try angry monkeys using computers. I don't know if it'll have that famous picture of the meme. Oh, yeah, it has like the famous like monkey meme. So maybe yeah, you just click on that, it'll import the GIF, and then you can yeah, you can just include it in there. And again, same thing, position, fill scene editor. You can maybe edit the monkey a little bit. I don't know. And there it has, it can bring in images. It has stock video, stock photos, jiffies. It's all right there in the application, and you can just bring them in whenever you need one. Wow. I mean, unbelievable, this program. They keep on adding stuff too. They just added like avatars. I'm not really huge into the avatars, but you know, some people like those. So hey, if it's your thing. Okay, let's see. Voice Writing. This live program is about recording oneself and then editing. I was playing with ChatGPT, asking to produce a script for a play. Is there any AI tool that would produce a video from that script? Yeah, so the avatar feature would do that. Also, they are adding, sort of beta testing this a little bit. They're adding this feature called Agent. Agent is for having, basically it's vibe editing your video. It's not quite ready. I'm not sure that I'm supposed to show it to you yet, so don't tell anyone. Uh, but it's like using, I don't know if you've used any vibe coding tools. So one of the tools that I use recently, I just finished, I think I mentioned it. I just finished a course on Bolt.new, and oh my goodness, the thing is unbelievable. Bolt.new will let you build things like websites, apps, and adding things like e-commerce, databases, and you don't even have to know what that means. So I vibe coded this. Let's see, Well, I tried a Galaga game and it didn't do such a great job. But you can. Is this the one I was doing or showing somebody earlier? Yeah, you can ask it to build you something, and it'll just write all the code for you. And it has integration so that you can add a database, payments, just by talking to it. Unbelievable. So, not even sure why I was saying all that, but I was just doing a course on that, and I tried using this new agentic sort of tool that is in the program now, this agent. It's not, it's a little bit messy, but I think they'll fix it. And the sort of the idea there is to tell it to do something. Like say, can you edit this for 30 seconds? Like give me a new version of this for 30 seconds, or I want you to go find me some B-roll to make this project better. And it's supposed to just let you kind of vibe with the tool, which I think it'll be once I think they finish it off. I think it's going to be pretty amazing. So that could be useful to you, Adrian. So awesome. Uh, that my friends was it. I hope you found that somewhat useful. So we had a few people join. I appreciate everybody that wrote me some notes. Let me know if there's anything else you want to learn. I would love to do some more of these in the future. And I'll add a link to like the courses that I teach at LinkedIn if you want to watch some other cool stuff, especially if you're looking for. So you can go here to go look at all my courses. If you want to watch that Bolt.new program, it's unbelievable. It does a really. I'm a developer, and I've been a developer for over a decade. It's pretty impressive what it can do already, and it's the worst version of it right now. It's going to get a lot better too. So I think that as I try to tell people, when you make things easier, people want more of it. So I don't think developer jobs are going to necessarily go away, but we're going to be just able to create things a lot quicker. And it'll be like when the spreadsheets were first released, it didn't get rid of CPAs or data analysts. What it made is everybody able to do some parts of those jobs. And it just raised the level of what everybody can do by providing tools that make things easier. So awesome. Any prompt to slant towards a legal delivery? I'm not sure what you're meaning by that. Any prompt to slant towards a legal delivery? Yeah, I mean, you could just that would be. So I think what you're saying is, what if you were trying to maybe write in a more legal style? Absolutely. That system prompt technique that I showed you is where you should start. I'm sure you can find prompts like on the web, but just practice your own. Like, what the other thing that you could do is tell it to analyze the style of writing and use something as a guide, one or more things. So when you saw that custom instruction that I gave you about cringe, the one with the cringe writing, which I pasted in earlier, another thing that you can do is just give it a bunch of writing that you've done and tell it, hey, can you write a system prompt that duplicates this style? And it will just write one out for you. That's like one of my biggest tips to people is, if you don't know how to do something, just give it some context and tell it to write the thing that you want for you. If you look at the scripts that I do for whenever I have to do either writing or say image generation, if you go back to that It's Playtime website, you'll see that there's another one that is for how I generate images with Midjourney. There's one for ChatGPT too, but there's one called Midjournerize. It's a horrible name, I know. But this GPT basically, a lot of times I have an idea for an image, and I'm like, my entire idea is something really dumb, like monkeys with keyboards or something with laptops. That's my idea. And what you really want to give a tool like Midjourney or ChatGPT is you want to give it context. They do better if they understand your intent, right? But sometimes like you can't think of anything, right? So let's go with monkeys with laptops, and we'll give it to this custom GPT. And again, the full set of instructions are on that website. And what it does is first, okay, so the way that I designed this particular prompt is to generate the images for that website, that It's Playtime. And the images on that website tend to follow a style, so a certain color palette, a certain sort of style of development. So the first thing that this does is just ask me, hey, do you want to still use the default kind of palette, the default prefix and postfix, and how many images do you want to generate? And I'll say defaults are fine. And so now, again, remember monkeys with keyboards, right? Yeah, I think monkeys with laptops is good. Let's let it go. And it's going to give me 5 prompts that I can use in Midjourney that are much more detailed. So I love using this for that. And so, again, once you give ChatGPT is great at filling in the details, and for things like image generation or video generation or even writing, the ability for it to expand on your thinking, I think, is really useful. I know that, you know, writer's block, you get kind of stuck writing. So if I was, let's try this on Midjourney. So I know you're wondering, monkeys with laptop, what is that gonna look like? So I'm gonna hit submit here, and notice that what this custom GPT will do is it'll build 5 images as opposed to just giving you one option. It's gonna give you 5 images from one prompt. Take your prompt, expand on it, give you 5 versions, and boom, we've got some, like, this is great. I love this one. Midjourney does a really nice job. So yeah, these are fantastic. You see the one that I use on the article. Um, yeah, and I could have it recreate those, but context is the most important thing. And sometimes you don't have to think of the whole context. Sometimes you feed it data, you ask it to help you figure out, how would I write a system prompt, how would I write my Midjourney prompts, um, what else can I give you to make the tools do better. Context is the key. That's why I started by showing you the tools in Gemini that do the research. Oftentimes, instead of just vibe sort of writing, kind of, I call it like nonsense. Like, a lot of times when I'm trying to figure out how to do a video, I have an idea. Like I told you, that was my closing statement yesterday. You didn't become a developer because you wanted to type things. You became a developer because you wanted to learn how to, or solve problems. Like, that was my whole concept. So work that concept through the ChatGPT and those tools. I have lots of other um, courses on how I approach prompting in an agentic way, because you notice I can continue to work with that tool for other projects. So it I can continue to have that conversation with the tool so that it can continue to, I write entire courses by continuing, like, okay, let's work on the next video. I wanted to retain the context of what I'm working with, but later on I want to create a new, potentially, video script, making sure that it understands what I just finished working on. That's important, because a lot of times you're not working on one document, or working on a series of things, and that context is what's gonna make ChatGPT perform well for you. So, okay, that was a long long series of answers for a simple question. So yeah, legal delivery, you probably can either find, there's lots of custom GPTs that are pre-built that will do that, or start by feeding it data, have it create a system prompt, and then test it out, and then use that as your system prompts in either custom GPTs or in ChatGPT itself. So awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm hopefully that was useful. Let me know what else you want me to cover. Had a lot of fun, and we managed to um, do the entire sort of hour, which is great. Feel bad if I don't sort of do have enough value, or sort of provide enough value to fill out the entire session. So thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you again. Let me know what you want to talk about next time.